Yeah, yeah. The signature got going, Can you pass me the lighter? Yo, Caesar, can you pass me the lighter? Yeah, muingia bez na itinga, geri jali makali mapinga. Guess I'll track ni tinga.
What's really good, y'all? Welcome back to Ask Dr.Reign with the Hip Hop Doctor. And today, I wanted to keep it 100 with y'all on a topic I want to call K.O.D, or Kids on Drugs. If that sounds familiar, it's J. Cole's last title album, and I drew inspiration from it because hip hop is all about a reflection of what the youth see in their environment. So it's a mirror image of what's going on, and it's become a big problem in Africa, and a lot of people are taking lean. We're going to speak to Dr. Vundi, aka the wellness doctor, who's going to explain to us what exactly this lean is and the active drug called codeine.
Mbona you mad? Mbona lazima ni chill na fala non song ya head. Mbona ni mdeng, mbona ni dengi sing. Mbona ni penanga kar no jongo no dengi bang. Mbona you mad? Mbona lazima ni chill na fala non song ya head. Mbona ni mdeng, mbona ni dengi sing. Mbona ni penanga kar no jongo no dengi bang.
Thank you so much for coming to the show, Dr. Vundi. It's a pleasure to have you. We love your show, The Wellness Doctor, your channel. Putting people, getting their minds right and informing people about mental wellness. And that brings us to the next question, which is, what is lean and what's the opioid, addiction looking like in Kenya?
Okay, so what is lean? Lean is where people are mixing prescription grade cough syrup together with soda, typically Sprite, and some people will still add some candy in there. So it's the cough syrup with an opioid like codeine together with soda. And so you're right, initially it's a thing of the West, but then it started creeping into our society here in Africa, in Kenya. So how does it, the opioid addiction in Kenya, the situation is that mostly we'll have the heroin and the heroin addiction being very strong, especially it's very grounded in coast and that area, but even in Nairobi. So we have a lot of the heroin addiction, but then it's closely followed by prescription painkillers. So that's morphine, pethidine, and even methadone. So the addiction to lean is not as much compared to those two, but it's still there.
Yeah, for me, the first time I got into codeine was just with a friend. I seen him sipping and I had no idea what it was. So I had to just try it out and just see what's going on. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I knocked the fuck out. And it wasn't a very fun experience because I basically just didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So the first, second, third, even maybe fourth time, I kind of didn't get what was going on until finally I kind of got the rhythm and realized, you're supposed to sip it, not drink it, and just kind of stretch it. And then you're supposed to sometimes you don't put a whole bottle of codeine into something. You learn to ration very wisely, and it becomes now a better experience basically. So yeah, that was my first experience with the codeine, something like that.
I want to talk about lean because the hip hop influence of the culture, that's how it started with, with your Lil Waynes and Double Cup, and that's how everybody became influenced about it. What I want to know is, what is in lean? Like codeine, when we say codeine, when you say morphine, when you say heroin, what's in lean? What's the active substance?
So the substance is an opioid. And actually, just to circle back a bit, the studies that have been done are basically in terms of opioid addiction. No one has studied specifically how many people are hooked onto lean, how many people.
Okay.
Yeah, so generally it's worldwide, it's 33 million people who are abusing codeine, are abusing opioids. In Africa, it's about 2 million people, and in East Africa, it's 260,000 people.
Close calls, I don't think I've had any close calls per se, and I know you're probably being deaf. And I think I actually fainted once off of sipping codeine. And when I think back on it, I probably think it didn't have too much to do with the codeine. But one thing codeine does do is it dehydrates you. And then you're taking all the sugar in from, number one, the syrup and the soda. So it's like a large intake that dries you the fuck up. So I think I may have passed out due to the lack of just water in myself.
What's really the danger with this drug?
All right, so as I mentioned, so lean is an opioid, right? And so what opioids do is basically they're used as painkillers. So they are very strong painkillers. Simply put, they disrupt the connection between pain in the body to the mind. So they're used for very, like, if you've had a surgery, you're given something like morphine so that you don't experience the pain, the post-operative pain. So that's what essentially they were created for, right? But now they have other effects. So when you use an opioid, you get that high feeling because they bind those receptors and they cause that dopamine release that leads to some kind of high or euphoria and reinforcement. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's like it wasn't the intended use of these substances, it just comes with the drug itself.
What's the dose, a lethal dose for codeine?
The dangerous levels of codeine is you shouldn't have more than 300 milligrams in a day. And one tablet of betapine has got 8 milligrams of codeine. So you can do the math in terms of how much can be lethal.
Potentially kill you, yeah.
So now it causes the breathing to stop. It also causes like the central nervous system. You can go into a coma. So those, in as much as it's numbing your pain, it's also shutting down other things, especially in very high.
And you can also get seizure spells?
Yes, you can. So
yeah.
So now those are the lethal. If you go now above those 300 milligrams, you're talking about coma, seizures, and respiratory arrest. Okay. So now if you take the whole bottle, you're going above what was prescribed and you're heading towards an overdose of the codeine.
Okay.
Yeah, so kind of like there are safe levels of it when it's prescribed by the doctor, but when you go beyond that now, you're putting yourself at risk for those other things. Funny enough, we don't talk about side effects of some of these drugs outside of the physical side effects. But there's a side effect called dependence, and there's a side effect called addiction. And those are literally, to me, they are really, really bad and need to be talked about more. So dependence is very different from addiction, because dependence is where your body physically needs a substance. But now addiction is more of a mental thing. So you've learned to use this thing as a crutch. You get to the point where you must use this drug, even if you know it's causing you harm, even if you know it's affecting your relationships, affecting your jobs. We're seeing kids going to school high, like high as a kite.
Yeah.
Guys are at work and they're high. So unless we really address the addiction and the withdrawal, if we focus so much on the physical things like
you're going to die,
you're gonna die, your heart will stop.
Yeah.
Already this is someone who's addicted, so he does not care the side effects that come with the medication.
Yeah.
So to deal with this thing, you really must go to the root cause,
the underlying cause,
and
so
deal
that,
with the addiction. Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on who you ask, really. Like for me, it's really dope. I've never had really bad experiences with it, like horrible experiences because I've had like worse with different stuff like alcohol and other drugs.
So now fast forward. So you have this underlying mental illness. Fast forward, you're now using lean, you're mixing it with booze,
marijuana, which is also common. Yeah.
And now you don't know you have a mental illness. So what's happening is that usually this causes, it really precipitates those symptoms. So now guys start hallucinating, going full on with like a psychotic break.
Yeah. So it awakens like a sleeping giant in your brain.
Exactly.
All these chemicals going on. Yeah.
And like people with mental illness, even when they're having their treatment, we usually don't advise them to use anything.
What do parents look out for? Like what are the signs, and how can we empower parents to just inform their kids about this?
When someone is using something, there's always going to be a change in behavior. And it can start from little things to, for example, absenteeism, like missing school, poor performance in school, stuff like that. Or if it's somehow your child used to come home and you can sit and talk with them, now the child just goes straight to the room. But now other things will be like, if they change they start being unkempt, they don't take care of their bodies and stuff like that. It's not just for parents to look out for these things. Also, us guys, as young people, let's also look out for our friends.
Yeah.
Because like we have so many friends who are using and they're going down a path that's not so good. And like kidogo you find your pal is now an addict, and then you start wondering, how did we not see it? But also change in mood, so they become very irritable, especially when they are not high. So let's say we went out with you yesterday, we had a good time, then kesho you're like almost not coping with your hang down. You're so angry, you're irritable, you're sweating. So if you're noticing somebody's having those signs, perhaps it's a withdrawal. And so let's normalize talking to our friends and finding out like what are you on, and not that judgmental one. It's like just to know, what are you on, what are you using, like what fun are you having?
Yeah. I think we'll just summarize it there and say that we just need to be more observant. We need to listen to the kids more and empower one another, and just take time out to hear your friend. When somebody says you're fine, maybe they're not really fine.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. I feel like you've empowered me, because now I can go out there.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to link up with a couple of my guys.
Really?
Yeah. My young bloods, they're in the studio, they're recording some stuff. So I just actually want to just go talk to them about this whole lean culture, because I know it's very popular in hip hop. So thank you so much, the wellness doctor, for gracing us on the show. I hope we can have you again on a different topic.
For sure, anytime.
Be sure to subscribe to her page, the wellness doctor. We'll put the links below. And that's a wrap. I'm going to see the kids, and stay safe. Wear your mask all the time.